You're lost in a TV show and suddenly something reminds you that you haven't done your daily run. You promised yourself that you would start being more active and healthy, but that option just sounds like a hassle at this moment. You may feel an initial push to just get up and go run, but that idea is quickly slowed by other thoughts that come rushing in to bring up other ideas. The problem is that these thoughts may be very rational. Well, I did go on a hike on the weekend and that got my legs pretty sore, so it's probably going to be a pain to run today, and that's just going to make it even worse for me tomorrow. This is a good point, but at the end of the day, it's not what's best for us. If everyone did what's best for them, they would get up and go run immediately. They would program that app, they would write that book, they would ask out that person. But there is one reason behind the fact that we all push these things off inevitably. A powerful, invisible, internal force that lives inside of every one of us, and it's called resistance. Resistance is like a parasite living in every one of us with one goal: to kill our dreams and put us in the ground. And if you're not prepared, it will do just that. Hi, I'm Krishana, but you can call me Chana. Today I want to talk about resistance, the way that it seeps into our life, and how to beat it. Because I think that you'll be surprisingly familiar with the ways that resistance disguises itself and prevents us from doing the things that we set out to do. Okay, the first way that resistance works is actually to disguise itself as a form of rationalization. We rationalize the excuses that we come up with, like I just mentioned soreness. You say, oh, I'm too sore, or oh, I don't have the time, or I'm not specialized in that subject. And while those are valid excuses, that doesn't always mean that you should listen to them and not proceed on with the thing that you were trying to do, because there's often ways around it. I mean, think of it like this: maybe you're wanting to get into blogging on a certain subject. By no means are you an expert on the subject, and that's the first thought that will pop into your head if you're thinking about starting this. You're gonna think like, oh well, nobody's gonna want to listen to you. You're not an expert, and that does seem valid, right? But maybe you read a couple books. You get a first few topics. You write maybe 10 articles or something like that, and you start it. And by that time, you kind of get the ball rolling, and the more you think about it and the more you pursue it, the more ideas come up to you, and it kind of just flows without you thinking about it. But if you didn't start, and if you just listened to that first thought that popped into your head and re-rationalized it, and you thought, oh yeah, you're right, nobody's going to listen to me. Well, now you haven't gone down that whole road where you find things that you were not expecting to, and you find topics that you weren't thinking about before, and you get the point. And sometimes these excuses that you rationalize may seem external. Maybe you've got more work this week from your job, and so that's why you can't work on your side gig. If you really take a step back, oftentimes it doesn't matter. You can still pursue those all that you want. You can get your work done and you can do your side gig. You just take some time out of other areas. You really cut it down. You schedule better, So there's oftentimes where there's these external factors that seem like external factors, but at the end of the day, it's just internal resistance disguising itself as an external factor. Another way that resistance works is through fear. Inexperienced people and amateurs will think that they have to overcome a fear before they begin to do something. But experienced people know that there won't ever be a time where you overcome fear. That's just an excuse to prevent you from doing the thing that you want to do. If you can't beat the fear, just do it scared. Henry Fonda, a famous actor from the 1900s, would actually throw up every single time he had a performance. But that didn't stop him. He went on and ignored the fear. And by the time he got out on stage, the fear had kind of disappeared. And he got into his routine and put on a great show. But that fear is sometimes what stops inexperienced people from even starting. Every time you ignore the fear, you are winning the war against resistance. Unless your fear is jumping into alligator-infested waters, then maybe you should actually listen to the fear. But if it's to release that book that you've been wanting to, and you're so scared of the rejection of putting it out there, the thought that it might not succeed, well, you do it. You do it anyway, because you'll figure it out. Even if it does get criticism, well, that's a real life criticism that you can use to build and get better and make a better book and continue on. Resistance works off of inspiration. Most people, especially in creative fields, will wait for those few moments where they feel inspired. But the well-versed person and the person that's been around for a little while knows that you just sit down and you really try and channel that inspiration. You look at ideas that might inspire you, and you are confident that you are going to be able to write or make draw your paintings or whatever it is that you're doing. Sure, I understand sometimes you're just not gonna, no matter what you do, you're not gonna have that inspiration. You're just gonna feel like, oh, I feel so flat. Sit down and see if that's really the case. Really try to get the juices flowing. And if they don't, then fine, step back, but at least you can be happy that you tried. And I think it's important to recognize that resistance will get greater the closer you get to the finish line. I'm sure you've experienced this. I know I have. And this is because resistance is panicking. You're close to defeating it. So it hits the panic button and it's throwing everything it can at you. You know, all those things that we just talked about. Whether it's, you know, people aren't going to like this. Oh, I should be doing this in a different way or a different style. Or, oh, you know, oh, all of a sudden I'm just so busy. And, you know, that's actually a secondhand priority. And this is why you have to be prepared even more so towards the end. You have to keep that in the back of your head that, oh, this is going to be harder towards the end. And another area where resistance can actually be a stronger force against us is when we are trying to complete something that is of great importance to us. It's easier to do little things here and there. You know, maybe you take on a few jobs here, you start a few projects here and there, but to start that one company that you've been wanting to do, the resistance to do that will be great because you know that's your be all end all, and that's scary. You know, it's understandable. And that's why resistance really wants to make sure that you don't do that. The only way to beat resistance is to wage war against it. Be prepared to take on resistance every single day and keep it in your head. Keep reminding yourself of the ways that resistance is going to seep its way into your life and try to prevent you from doing the things that you're setting out to do. You can sharpen your skill all you want. You know, you can continue to practice and read books and whatever else to try and make yourself better. But all that doesn't matter if you are not ready to fight the battle against resistance, because it'll just continue to prevent you from testing out those skills that you've been sharpening. If you're letting resistance win and you're not actually trying to put yourself out there, well then there's no point. I actually like to think that we can use resistance as a tool and kind of make fun of it and be like, hey look, I'm going to use you to get to the things that are most important to me. Because like I said, resistance becomes greater the more something is important to us. So you can kind of take resistance and be like, what do I have the strongest fear of doing? What when I think about doing really makes me uneasy? When you find those few things that you have the greatest resistance to do, those are the things that you should be doing. Sure, a lot of people are busy, but they're busy doing a lot of tasks that are just procrastination from doing the actual tasks. I mean, I can be busy all day cleaning my kitchen, and I'm technically being productive, but most of the time that's usually just procrastination to, you know, getting on my computer and programming, or getting on my computer and, you know, whatever, making YouTube videos. So once you become a pro at beating resistance, I think it's important to remember that professionals endure adversity. You're likely to take a beating when you first start really just pushing resistance aside and doing all the things that you like to do and no longer procrastinating. I mean, people around you are probably going to be kind of off put. They might say, hey, what's up with you? You've changed. Or people might say your work sucks. People might say, you know, whatever it is you're doing. People might hate on your blog or your writing or your company or your YouTube videos or whatever it is. But you need to grow to take that criticism and you don't take it personally. You know that when you're walking home and you get covered in bird poop, you don't let it affect you because it only has the power that you let it have. You know that when you get home, you can wash that off. You take the punch after punch, the blow to your face, getting hit over and over again, because you know that that's what you get. That's what you get for being in the ring and not out in the stands. And you learn to love it. There's a lot of good, and there's a lot of passion that's gonna be creating happiness and excitement in your life. I don't want to say this is gonna be all terrible, but you are gonna take a few knocks, and that's okay. You gotta endure it. If you're determined to get what you want, you're not going to quit after a few blows. This is what you asked for. You should be happy. Alright, that is all I got for you today. Hope you're excited to start your journey on becoming a pro and beating resistance, and knocking them down, and not letting those losers who criticize you to get in your way. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, it would be awesome if you could like and subscribe or throw me a comment, whatever. It all helps. And I will see you soon in the next week.